when I started sitting down to try and formulate my thoughts about how best to share information with my audience regarding the ophthalmic imaging, there was quite a lot, and I just wanted to make sure that I give you bite-sized images, bite-sized information for you to assimilate and digest easily, and hence we have split the topic into multiple little bite-sized headings for us to share over the next 4 talks. Now, each talk will try and cover 2 topics, and for this, I've split this into introduction and basics and some slit lamp anterior segment imaging. The second talk will try and cover some color photography, gonioscopy, myboboscopy, and corneal topography. Moving on to posterior segment imaging in terms of fundus photography and FFA for the third talk. And the last but not the least being the OCT of the anterior segment, posterior segment, and finishing with the OCT and geography. So as for today's talk, I will try and focus on the introduction and basics of ophthalmic imaging, and we'll move on to cover some of the anterior segment imaging using the slit lamp cameras. Now, if we look back at the humble beginnings of ophthalmic imaging, let me draw your attention to this pinhole camera. Now, we all can recollect reading in schools about the cardboard box that has one of its sides cut open. A pinhole size opening is made on one of the walls, and a black color is painted on the wall opposite to the pinhole. A light source is placed in front of the pinhole, and voila, simple yet brilliant concept of capturing an image. Now, if we can project the same concept as an analogy to the human eye, you can visualize that the pupil of the human eye acts as the pinhole that is shown here in the middle of the picture, and the retina is the black film on the back surface of the pinhole camera. Now, the only difference here is that an independent observer could not see what the image is falling on the retina unless we have the eye sliced in a sagittal plane and look at it from the side. It's a bit too far for practical purposes. Now, if we stretch our imagination a little bit further, and if we can visualize all of us sitting in a cinema hall, that's nothing but us sitting inside that pinhole camera cardboard box, with the pinhole being the back wall where there's the projector hole acting as the pinhole, and the screen in front of us will be the image capture screen. Clearly, it's one big camera obscura. Okay, it's all fine being able to see things, but how about storing those moments for review later in time? And also, how about being able to observe what the image I'm going to be capturing on a film and store it later? Now, in the quest to be able to see the happenings around oneself and also inside a closed chamber has led to various innovations. Now, after various trial versions, the upgrades came in the form of cameras, which helped in seeing what was in front of the pinhole before capturing the image. As you can see in a normal state in the camera, you have the aperture, the two dark lines, which would be similar to the pinhole. We have the sensor film at the back, that is the analogy to the film on the back of the pinhole camera. We have a shutter to protect the exposure until the moment that we want. And one of the biggest steps in cameras was the incorporation of mirrors to see what's inside the camera and the lenses to focus the image much before we capture. So one can visualize the imagery well in advance of the capturing state and have control over the focus and the image that you want to capture. Now, in a clicked state, we can see that the camera had the shutter was removed, the mirror is lifted up, and the viewer's view is stopped. So for that brief moment of capture, the viewfinder does not have any input because the mirror is lifted away from the line of the light ray. The light ray goes directly to the sensor and an image is captured.